Excuse me, partner.
Howdy, stranger.
Oh, no, you don't.
I need help. God damn it! Somebody help me!
Out of your hands now, mister.
What the hell? What the hell?
This ain't
Please! I'm calling the law for this.
I'll come back for you. I promise.
If you were to ask me, what is more reliable, more trustworthy between the beta score and the user score, I would tell you none of them actually is. On one hand, you have established reviewers who may not want to lose their exclusivity by posting negative reviews on a game released by a particular studio. And since getting review copies early allows you to attract more views and more visibility, you can understand why one may not be inclined to say something bad, something negative, which in return could make them lose that privilege. Now, I'm not saying that every single reviewer is biased. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't trust those established reviewers because they could only have their own interests, their best interest in mind when reviewing a product. And on the second hand, you have the user score, which is essentially casual people like you and me reviewing a game. The problem with that score is that we live in a world where console wars and platform wars as a whole are a thing. And basically someone can leave a bad review on a game simply because they hate the platform it was released on. Yeah, I know, right? And those people will then proceed to drag a game down, which will be reflected in the overall score. And as much as I would like that to not be the case, you have to take into account that some people may leave a bad score simply because they are bad at the game or do not understand how to play the game, and are too lazy to make the proper research. Being bad at the game doesn't automatically mean that you are a terrible player. It could be directly tied to the fact that the game itself generally failed to teach you its core mechanics, which is a fair criticism to hold against it. But let's say that you are in fact looking for someone which reviews you want to keep an eye on. My advice will be to play a game, a random game, and then look for a particular reviewer whose opinion are most likely to align with yours and stick with them. Now, it doesn't mean that you will agree on every single thing they say, but because you share similar taste, you are most likely to like what they like and dislike what they don't like. Personally, I watch Skillup's videos because of the way he structures his analysis. I would also recommend Ranton or Video Game Donkey. There is an argument to be made that those two don't make proper reviews, but something is certainly undeniable. They make pretty great content. I stumbled upon a review on Steam, which encompasses for the most part the reasons why I think you shouldn't trust anyone in the first place. It goes, this is going to be an unpopular review. This is only my personal opinion, but it is honest. Cuphead's aesthetic is incredibly charming. The art, sound, and music are all wonderful. In fact, I believe it is these features that got the game traction in the first place. Once the game was off to a good start, well, I believe the popularity of it continued to grow because liking it was the popular thing to do. There is a stigma to going against games that are initially well received. Often, biased fans will condemn you for criticizing their game with ad hominems. What is that word? Like, get good. When in fact, the objective dislike of something as an objective whole has no bearing on skill. That whole segment is the very thing I wanted to talk about because it couldn't be more true. All too often do we see people hating or loving a game simply because it is the popular thing to do. Let's take a game like Cyberpunk, for example, which was arguably one of the most hyped and awaited games of all time. As far as I was concerned, I'm always a bit skeptical when a studio tries a completely different game genre, very different from the ones they were known for. I was dubious when Cyberpunk, mostly known for making the infamous series, decided to make a samurai game Ghost of Tsushima. And they didn't just make the game, they nailed it. It clearly wasn't the perfect game, but it is a good game. And having played The Witcher before, Cyberpunk felt like a massive overhaul, too different from CD Projekt Red's previous entries. And this is the one thing I want you to keep in mind. Never trust the hype or lack thereof. Cyberpunk unfortunately crumbled under the weight of the expectations it had set for itself. They overpromised and under-delivered. At some point, it became popular to be hyped for Cyberpunk, and I don't know if it could be linked to our inner desire to belong to something, but people jumped on the hype train because at the time it was the good thing to do. If you eagerly were excited to play Cyberpunk, you were part of the big boys club. But the same way people will give into the hype, the same way they will hate on the game, simply because it is the trendy thing to do at the moment. Gotham Knights is coming out soon, and you can already tell that the game hasn't been positively received, for the most part. A lot of things contributed to that one game being badly received. Some people were not happy when a game about Gotham didn't feature Batman. Some people weren't happy that the game was exclusively for next-gen consoles and PC, when it didn't look like a next-gen game. So, all of a sudden, those casual people, like you and me, knew exactly what a next-gen game should be like. You know, I played Horizon Forbidden West, and it is probably the most graphically mind-blowing game released this year, so far. But at the same time, the actual experience I had with the game wasn't a next-gen one, even though I was playing on a PS5. Hell, I even played The Last of Us Remake and thought it looked ridiculously stunning. The characters feel like actual people having actual human problems. But then I realized that the same thing could be said about the Uncharted remasters. They look just that good. All of those games look amazing in their own way, but I can assure you, there was nothing transformative about the experience. They definitely 100% run better on the PlayStation 5, while they could also run on the PlayStation 4, but just crappier. The point I'm trying to make here is that though those games looked next-gen, they didn't feel next-gen. They felt like enhanced version of PS4 titles. So, how can you say, without even playing Gotham Knights, that it isn't a next-gen game? That seems ridiculously unfair. I gotta say, from the very start, Cyberpunk felt way too ambitious to run on previous consoles. When I hear the term next-gen, I assume the game is going to deliver the kind of experience, the kind of unique and unmatched experience which is only made possible because you are able to harness a newly found power you couldn't get before. Playing a better version of an already existing game does not make it a next-gen experience. Sure, you have faster loading screens, you have adaptive triggers, whatever. It's still the same game, but it runs better. God of War Ragnarok is coming out in less than a month, and it is going to suffer the same fate. It will run incredibly well and look magnificently gorgeous on the PlayStation 5 system, but it will remain an enhanced version of a PS4 title. After watching the Edge Runner show on Netflix, by the way, great show, be sure to check it out if you haven't already, amazing. So, after watching the show, I wanted to visit Night City by myself, but I couldn't just dive into the game because we know how the game turned out. After the hype, many people actually playing the game have reported that it was in a better place now, notwithstanding the fact that there were still some little hiccups, but nothing game breaking. So I proceeded to dive into the game, and immediately I felt overwhelmed by everything I had to learn and choosing the size of my penis. Choosing whether or not you wanted to have a penis. And if you do want to have a penis, you get to choose its size. Game of the year. Okay, more seriously. Once you get past the first missions and tutorials, damn, it is breathtaking. It is a sight for sore eyes and a world worth losing yourself into. After 2 years, the game was finally what it was supposed to be. Except, not exactly, because then you realize, even though it runs and feels better, they still haven't added some of the cool features they advertised. CG Project Red lied and did some pretty scummy things, like releasing a game in a very bad state and not being upfront about the way their game ran on previous consoles. They should be held accountable 100% for being shady and greedy, but also, listen, the game feels good and I believe in redemption. With No Man's Skies putting the biggest Uno reverse in gaming history, I think Cyberpunk can also do the same. I really hope they don't give up on the game because of the bad press and, they fucked up. Granted, but I believe in redemption again. But at the end of the day, one thing is becoming clearer. You can't trust the hype. Those gaming companies do not have your best interests in mind and do not even care about you, most of the time. It's all about the money. So unless you actually sit down and play the game, you won't know for sure how it runs, how it feels. And by the way, a quick question. Have you ever played a game everybody was overly praising, rating, and you felt like it was underwhelming? And at the same time, you played that other game nobody talks about a lot, and you felt like it was underappreciated, underrated. I'm confident you might have experienced that at least once, but you felt like your dissatisfaction wasn't meant to be, simply because everybody else loved it. But guess what? We are allowed to like different things. You are allowed to pass on Gotham Knights simply because it isn't an Arkham game. And we love Arkham games. And well, there's something I need to get out of my system. In many ways, I'm glad Gotham Knights is not going to be yet another Arkham game. I played Arkham Asylum, the first game of the series, all the way back in 2009, on a very crappy PC, and it was the best time I ever had after playing Dead Space. I am revisiting Arkham Knight right now to prepare for Gotham Knights, and I can't get over the fact that the combat system is so sluggish, so uninspired, so underwhelming, so simple and so outdated, even for a game released in 2017. And having experience with some other great games with superior combat, that left me yearning for something more impactful, something with more versatility. Gotham Knight is surely going to be different, but sometimes being different isn't synonymous with being good. So I guess we'll just have to wait and play the game to know for sure. But I truly hope you were able to fully grasp the picture I was trying to portray in this video. It is okay to love or hate something. I believe everybody is entitled to their own beliefs and opinions. But you do need to make sure that the opinions you are so adamantly sharing are yours to begin with and not someone else's, simply because it is the popular thing to do at the moment. Never trust anybody, no matter how great IGN is. The people reviewing games are people just like me and you. We must respect each other. We must stop attacking people simply because they praise the game we found average at best. We should stop trying to enforce our point of view onto others because we do not hold all the answers and we don't know better. And in case you made it this far in the video, wow, thank you for your time. Make sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. And if you disliked it, be sure to also let me know down in the comments since I want to know what you think. Feel free to subscribe if you aren't already, and one more thing. Red Dead Redemption 2 wasn't Game of the Year. Let that sink in.
Okay, girl.